So let's now talk about the media. Sean, I'm going to put this on a T for you here. Let's
Oh, I
play
appreciate it.
clip number 2, how the media has reacted to JD Vance's comments, and our friends at CBS have really stepped in it.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history. I also think it's wrong. Again, I go back to the point of his speech. Okay, the point of his speech was basically that there is an erosion in free speech and intolerance for opposing points of view within Europe, and that's of concern because that is eroding. That's not an erosion of your military capabilities. That's not an erosion of your economic standing. That's an erosion of the actual values that bind us together in this transatlantic union that everybody talks about. And I think allies and friends and partners that have worked together now for 80 years should be able to speak frankly to one another in open forums without being offended, insulted, or upset. And I spoke to foreign ministers from multiple countries throughout Europe. Many of them probably didn't like the speech or didn't agree with it, but they were continuing to engage with us on all sorts of issues that unite us. So again, at the end of the day, I think that people give that is a forum in which you're supposed to be inviting people to give speeches, not basically a chorus where everyone is saying the exact same thing. That's not always going to be the case when it's a collection of democracies where leaders have the right and the privilege to speak their minds in forums such as these.
Mr. Secretary, I'm told that we are out of time.
Just talked about, which is they're focusing on how he got their attention and not really the what, because obviously some of what JD Vance, her criticism is similar to what you heard of Trump in 2015 and 2016. This is far right. This is extreme. It shouldn't be given oxygen. But it turned out there were a lot of Americans who saw it very differently and were less kind of focused on Trump's style and more focused on the issues that he was raising. And now, they are primarily mainstream. So, Sean, what say you of Margaret Brennan and the way some of the media has reacted to JD Vance's speech?
Yeah. So 4 quick points. One, I thought Marco Rubio continues to demonstrate how eminently qualified he is for this position and what a great pick he was. He is articulate, well-versed in history. I couldn't be more pleased with President Trump's choice on this. 2, there's a broader discussion to be had on the issue of free speech. I've always said this before, free speech in its ultimate form is allowing that which you detest. I've used the example before. I find flag burning the ultimate disgusting act. But if you embrace the First Amendment and free speech, you have to allow what you hate. You have to defend that. That is the ultimate goal of free speech. Number 3, CBS is at best in a spiral downward of epic proportions. This comment by Margaret Brennan follows on the heels of 60 Minutes, the lawsuit, them discussing and suppressing free speech in a separate segment. They've had some issues with their morning show. They've covered how they've covered Israel. So that's number 3. Number 4, with respect to what Margaret Brennan said, she said that free speech weaponized was what allowed the Holocaust to exist. Dan, when I was at the White House, I had probably one of the most epic screw-ups in my life. And in an attempt to explain something unbelievably poorly, I made a reference that I'll never, ever live down. And it was a fumble. Like, it was the biggest screw-up, like just how I articulated and what I was intending to do. I think everybody understood what I was intending to do to describe the horrendous nature of what Assad had done in Syria. And I screwed up an analogy and a historical reference. And I paid an ultimate price for this. And to watch Margaret Brennan walk out last night and not say a word She goes, we're out of time. CBS has said nothing. Her colleagues at CBS have said nothing. No one is calling her out. These so-called, Anti-Defamation League, the Southern Poverty, who are rushed to condemn everybody on the right. Where are they today? Why is Margaret Brennan facing no backlash from her colleagues in the media? This is absolutely reprehensible. The hypocrisy in the media continues to go unchecked.